We're learning to love you better with Queenie Brown.
Hey ladies, it's me, Queenie Brown. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Self-Love TV. And today's self-love lesson, we're going to talk a little bit more about the self-love scriptures. On our journey to understanding what self-love is, it's important that we understand what love is. And the only way to understand what love is to go to the book of love. And so today I'm going to be reading the self-love scripture out of Proverbs 31. It's Proverbs 31:17, and it's the very beginning of that scripture. I'm excited to share this with you because this is one of the first self-love scriptures that I stumbled across. And when I did, I didn't fully understand what it meant, but I was open to letting myself be led and learn how to take it a step further. So bear down and hang on, because here we go. So this is the book of love, Proverbs 31, verse 17a. In the King James, it reads, "She girdeth her loins with strength and strengtheneth her arms." What does that tell you? Does it tell you she's a bodybuilder? It didn't really mean much to me at the time either. So when I read this scripture, she girdeth herself. What in the world is she doing to herself if she's girdithing herself? What does it mean to gird yourself? So of course I went to the dictionary and I pulled up the definition of the word gird, and check this out. The word gird, it's a verb and something that you do. And it says to encircle or bind with a belt or band, to surround or enclose, to provide, equip, or invest as with power or strength, and to prepare oneself for action. So that was kind of interesting. Okay, so if she's girding her loins, not sure what a loins are, but I've heard about loins. I think I have an idea what a loin is, but we're just going to let that ride. So now that I know what the definition of the word gird means, it means to encircle around you with a belt. So then I went to the old biblical dictionary that defines what these old world terms meant. And so the word gird, G-I-R-D, imagine this. Now, we've all seen those old biblical movies, and you see everyone's wearing these long draping gowns, and, they look like sackcloth or whatever, but they're long and they're all the way down to the floor. Well, imagine all the work that they had to do back in those days. They were out working the fields. They were dealing with sheep. They were dealing with all these kinds of animals, and they were walking for miles and miles, and they would have to, get their water in jugs and go into the areas where they would collect their water, and they would have to get in there, and so these long gowns would get in the way. And I can imagine, So what they would do is they would reach down between their legs, and imagine yourself reaching down between your legs and grabbing the back of the garment, the back of the gown, and pulling it forward like a diaper, and then tying a belt around it so that everything was kind of around your waist, kind of tight. So now you can run, you can kick things, you can do whatever it is you need to do. You can move much more easily because you have girded your loins. Okay, so the loins is the reproductive area. When you think about the parts of you that would need protection from any kind of hurt back in those days, the prized part of the body was the reproductive area. And that was the part of you that you want to protect. Like now we recognize that the brain and the heart are the parts that you want to protect. But back in the day, they were going to gird the loins and make sure that that part of them was protected. So anyway, so she girds her loins with strength and strengtheneth her arms. So then I looked up the statement to gird your loins, and let me just read it straight from the PC here. It says, to prepare oneself for something requiring readiness, strength, or endurance. That's what it means to gird your loins. Okay, so I got all of that from just reading from the King James, going to the dictionary, and then going to the old biblical dictionary. And I got a pretty good understanding of what it meant. But here's what took it off the page for me. The Amplified Version is a version of the Book of Love wherein the original Hebrew from the Old Testament and the original Greek from the New Testament were amplified. If you think about our English language, it is very limited when you think about translations. There's so many more words in the Hebrew language and in the Greek language that our English language just doesn't have. And so we have words like that we use the same word to have different meanings. So when it came to translating from those original languages into our language, the original text lost some of its meaning. So the Amplified Version of the Bible goes back to the original Hebrew and the original Greek, and it just more clearly defines what the original meaning was. And it will add oftentimes it will add quite a few more words to the text so that you get a better understanding. And that's why it's called amplified, because it's amplifying the original text. So I'm going to read from the Amplified Version of the Book of Love that same scripture, Proverbs 31 verse 17a, just the beginning part of it. And it says, she girds herself with strength. And here's the interesting part. When it says strength, it says spiritual, mental, and physical fitness for her God-given task, and makes her arms strong and firm. Now, I didn't get that out of the King James. I didn't understand that when you spoke about girding herself with strength, it meant strengthening herself spiritually, strengthening herself mentally or emotionally, and strengthening her physical body so that she was fit for her God-given task. This implies that there's a purpose that she's designed to accomplish, that she is well equipped spiritually, mentally, and physically to fulfill that purpose, and that without girding herself with this level of strength, she won't be ready for her God-given task. And if you remember when I read this, the dictionary definition of girding her loins is to prepare oneself for something requiring readiness, strength, or endurance. So your God-given task, women and men, will require your readiness. It will require your strength, and it will require your endurance. And so this is why this scripture, for me, just speaks volumes to what self-love is all about, because without making sure that you gird your own loins, you can't gird somebody else's loins. You can't make sure that someone else is prepared physically, mentally, and spiritually for their God-given task. Only God can do that, because it's his given task. He's the only one that knows what they're here to do. Likewise, he's the only one that really fully knows what you've been equipped and called to do. So I'm so excited about this particular scripture, and this really does give you an example and just a little bit of insight into the depth of understanding that we're going to share as we go through this journey. I've been studying this word for 8 years now in depth, and God has just revealed so much to me, and I just can't wait to share it all with you. And I ask that you keep praying for me. Pray that I will be able to clearly communicate this message to you with simplicity and with understanding in a way that you're able to receive it, and not only that you're able to receive it, but you can pass it on to your friends so that we each get an understanding that it's important that we learn to love ourselves. It's not selfish. It is not selfless. It's self-full. And it's important that we learn how to love ourselves from a whole place, from a place of wholeness, so that we can continue to fulfill the will of God for our lives, and that we can stand in love and love those who are in our world. So again, thank you for joining me today on Self Love TV. I'm Queenie Brown, and until next time, I'll be loving me, and I pray that you'll be loving you. God bless.
You're learning to love you better with Queenie Brown.